Chapter 1. The Disease of Weakness. There is a quiet sickness spreading in the modern world. It cannot be cured by medicine or healed by rest. It is the disease of weakness, the decay of will, the slow suffocation of purpose. You feel it every morning when the alarm rings and your body refuses to rise. You feel it in the endless scroll, the comparison, the craving for comfort disguised as self-care. It is the death of focus, the death of mastery, and the death of the warrior spirit that once made humanity fierce, disciplined, and unbreakable. You tell yourself that you are tired, that you lack motivation, that life is stressful and chaotic. But the truth is simpler and harsher. You are undisciplined. You are ruled by moods instead of mission, by comfort instead of command. In a world of distraction, you've become a servant to every impulse. The warrior within you still breathes, but barely, yet centuries ago, there lived a woman who refused this weakness. Her name was Tamo Gozen, and her presence alone silenced men who thought strength belonged to them. She was not just a fighter, she was the embodiment of control. Precision and inner fire. Where others trembled, she was still. Where others hesitated, she struck. Where others sought comfort, she sought command. You may not be a warrior in armor, but your life is still a battlefield. Your battles are against procrastination, self-doubt, and distraction. Every day you choose to act or to retreat. Most people retreat, but Tamo's ancient habits hold the secret to winning that invisible war. Before we begin, listen carefully. This is not another motivational speech. This is training for your mind. If you stay until the end, you will learn the 10 habits that forge Tamo's legendary focus and unbreakable calm. Habits that can rebuild your self-discipline, sharpen your mind, and teach you the lost art of consistency. If you are ready to rise above the fog of weakness, to reclaim the clarity that once defined warriors, then subscribe and stay with me until the last word. What follows is not entertainment. It is instruction. The same way Tamo trained her soldiers, you will train your own spirit if you pay attention. This can be the day your life begins to change. Chapter 2. The battlefield within. Centuries ago, Japan was torn apart by war. The sky was often red with smoke, and the ground carried the scent of steel and fire. On one of those mornings, Tamo Gozen stood at the edge of a battlefield. Her black armor gleaming under the rising sun, her hair was tied in a single braid, her sword resting lightly in her hand. Her gaze was calm, not the calm of peace, but the calm of complete control. They called her the thunder that walked like a woman. Legends say she could ride through 10 men and not miss a single strike, but her real power was not her sword. It was her ability to command herself completely, her emotions, her fear, her attention. She understood something most people never do, that the real war is never fought against another. It is always fought within. At her side stood a young girl named Iko, a peasant's daughter with trembling hands and untested courage. She had begged to be trained under Tamo, but she was not prepared for what that meant. Her heart burned for glory, but her discipline was smoke. She wanted strength without sacrifice. Tamo studied her silently during drills. Aiko's strikes were fast but wild. Her spirit was loud but unfocused. She admired power yet despised repetition. A child of impulse, not intention, every mistake frustrated her. Every failure felt like humiliation. Tamo said nothing at first. She simply watched, waiting for the storm to wear itself out. That night after hours of training, Aiko collapsed in frustration. "I'm trying, master," she said, "but it's never enough." Tamo's voice was calm, almost cold. "You do not try, Aiko. You wish, you dream. You imagine the warrior's glory, but you refuse the warrior's discipline." Aiko frowned. "Then how do I begin?" Tamo's eyes met hers, sharp as the moon's reflection on a blade. "By losing everything you think you are, and by building yourself through habit, not hope." Chapter 3. The Restless Apprentice. In the weeks that followed, Aiko's struggle deepened. She rose early but found her thoughts wandering. During training, she compared herself to others. Faster students, stronger swordsmen, calmer minds. She began to envy them and resent herself. Some mornings, she wished Tamo would praise her, even once, but praise was rare in that camp. One evening, Aiko watched Tamo polish her sword in silence. The older warrior's movements were slow, deliberate, almost sacred. The blade gleamed like water. Finally, Aiko broke the silence. "Master, do you never tire of this? Doing the same thing every day?" Tamo didn't look up. A warrior's peace lies in repetition. Boredom is the furnace where mastery is forged. The weak seek novelty. The strong refine the same stroke until perfection bows before them. Akeko lowered her gaze, ashamed. She realized she had been chasing excitement, not excellence. Her desire for progress had blinded her to patience. Every swing of her sword was a reflection of her own scattered mind. Tamo finally looked at her. "You want to be free, don't you?" "Yes," Aiko said. "Then control yourself," Tamo replied. "Freedom is not the absence of rules. It is the power to command your own impulses." The next morning, Aiko began again, slower, quieter, more focused, for the first time. She didn't chase speed, she chased control. Chapter 4, The Collapse. It happened on a foggy morning. The students gathered for sparring drills. Tamo stood watching as Aiko faced a senior apprentice. The match began, and within seconds Aiko froze. Her opponent struck her shoulder, her weapon flew from her hand, and she fell hard onto the dirt. Laughter erupted from the circle. "The great apprentice of Tamo." One boy shouted mockingly. Aiko's face burned. She stood, but her hands trembled. The laughter cut deeper than the wound. She stormed away from the ring, through the trees. Until the sound of training faded into silence, rain began to fall, cold and steady. She sank to her knees, anger dissolving into tears. "Why am I even here?" She whispered, "I'll never be like her." Behind her, a voice answered, "No one asked you to be me." Ike turned to see Tamo standing in the rain, her expression unreadable. "I can't do it," Aiko said. "I fail again and again. Maybe I'm not meant for this." Tamo stepped closer. "You are not weak because you fall," she said softly. "You are weak because you refuse to rise again." Aiko looked up, startled. "Then what should I do?" Tamo picked up a branch and handed it to her. "Stand," she ordered. "Swing." Aiko hesitated, confused. "Now?" "Yes, when you fail, you do not rest. You train." So Aiko swung once, then twice, then again and again, until her arms shook and the rain washed away her tears. Tamo watched quietly, her voice low but fierce. "Every warrior must break once, but only those who rise from their breaking become unstoppable. The collapse is not your end. It is your beginning." The rain fell harder. Aiko kept swinging, her body trembling, her breath heavy, but beneath the pain, something had changed. For the first time, she no longer fought for Tomo's approval. She fought for herself. That night, long after the camp had gone to sleep, Tomo stood outside her tent, listening to the rhythmic sound of wood cutting through the air. Aiko was still training under the moonlight, every strike a vow to rise again. Tomo closed her eyes and smiled faintly. Now, she thought, the student has begun to learn. Chapter 5, The 10 Habits of the Disciplined Warrior. The morning after the storm, mist still clung to the mountains like breath upon a mirror. Aiko's hands were blistered from hours of training, but she no longer hid them. The pain had become a reminder that every weakness, when faced with patience, could be transformed into strength. Tamo summoned her to the upper courtyard. The elder warrior sat cross-legged beside a small brazier, its smoke rising in thin, gray lines toward the dawn. "Aiko," she began, "you are ready to learn the habits of discipline. These are not techniques for the sword. They are the rules that govern every part of a warrior's life. Without them, you will be as fragile as the wind." Aiko knelt and bowed deeply. "I'm ready, master." Tamo nodded once. "Then listen well. 10 habits form the spine of a disciplined mind. Master them, and the world cannot bend you. 1. Rise before the sun. The first habit, Tamo said, is to rise before the sun. The weak wake when they must. The strong wake when they choose." Aiko looked uncertain. "But master, how does rising early make me stronger?" Tamo poured tea into 2 cups. "When the world still sleeps, the mind is untouched. You meet silence before chaos has the chance to touch you. Each dawn is a battle between your comfort and your purpose. If you win that battle, the rest of the day will obey you." Aiko nodded slowly. She thought of the mornings she had wasted. Lying in bed, lost between dreams and doubts, she understood now. The warrior does not wait for energy. She creates it through motion. 2. Clean your space, sharpen your mind. Tamo stood and motioned toward the courtyard. "Before a battle, I clean my armor. Before meditation, I sweep the floor. The body imitates the mind, and the mind imitates the body. When your surroundings are in order, your thoughts follow." Aiko glanced around at the courtyard stones, slick with dew. Even this simple task? Especially this simple task, Tomo replied. The careless warrior thinks greatness comes from grand acts, but mastery is hidden in the ordinary. Sweep every corner with intention, and you will learn to control your attention. That is the first step toward focus. In that moment, Aiko realized that her cluttered thoughts and cluttered life were not separate things. They were reflections of each other. 3. Eat simply, think clearly. Later that day, as the sun rose higher, Tomo shared a simple meal: rice, broth, and pickled radish. A warrior's fuel, she said. Aiko frowned. You could eat better than this. Why choose something so plain? Tomo smiled faintly. Because indulgence weakens judgment. The more we chase pleasure, the less we can endure pain. Simplicity keeps the senses sharp. A heavy stomach dulls the sword. Modern science would later prove her right. Researchers at Tokyo University discovered that a minimalist diet reduces stress hormones and increases focus. Tomo knew this intuitively centuries before. When you eat lightly, your spirit moves swiftly. 4. Move every day. No matter the weather that afternoon, rain began again, steady and cold. Tomo ordered the students outside. Some groaned, others hesitated, but Tomo's command was final. Move! As Aiko stepped into the mud, she felt resistance rise inside her, the human instinct to avoid discomfort. But she remembered her failure and the words Tomo had spoken, so she moved, one strike, then another. Her body trembled, but her spirit burned. Tomo's voice cut through the storm. A body in motion teaches the mind endurance. The elements are not your enemy. Rain is not weakness. It is training in disguise. The warrior who waits for perfect conditions will never begin. 5. Train the eyes to see calmly. Days later, during meditation, Tomo placed a bowl of water before Aiko. The surface shimmered, disturbed by the faintest breeze. Your thoughts are like this, Tomo said. They ripple at every disturbance. A warrior's eyes must be like still water, seeing clearly without reaction. How do I train that? Aiko asked. By watching without judgment, Tomo replied. When anger comes, observe it. When fear rises, breathe through it. The goal is not to feel nothing. The goal is to not be controlled by what you feel. Aiko practiced this for weeks, realizing that emotional calmness was not passivity, but precision. The less she reacted, the more clearly she could act. 6. Speak less, observe more. One evening, as the campfire flickered low, Aiko began to speak about her training, her improvements, her frustrations. Tomo raised a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. Do not waste power through words, she said. The mouth is the enemy of mastery. Speak when your words carry weight. Otherwise, preserve your strength in silence. Aiko bowed her head. She realized how often she had filled silence with noise, how often her pride disguised itself as explanation. From then on, she spoke less and listened more, and the world around her began to teach her lessons she had never heard before. 7. Face fear in small doses daily. Weeks later, Tomo led her into the forest at dusk. Fear, Tomo said, is the shadow of inexperience. It grows when you avoid it. She pointed toward a steep cliffside where the wind howled fiercely. Climb halfway, she commanded. Aiko's stomach tightened. But, climb, Tomo interrupted. The girl obeyed, trembling as she scaled the rock face. Halfway up, her heart raced. When she returned, Tomo nodded. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is mastery of movement within it each day. Face something that frightens you, not to become fearless, but to grow used to fear's voice until it loses its power. In modern terms, psychologists call this exposure conditioning. Facing discomfort until the brain rewires its response. Tomo's warriors had practiced it long before science gave it a name. 8. Endure boredom without complaint. Training became repetitive. The same drills, the same motions, the same silence. Many students grumbled. But Aiko remembered Tomo's words. Boredom is the forge of mastery. One afternoon, she asked, Master, why must we do the same strikes again and again? Tomo replied, because mastery begins when progress stops being visible. When you endure repetition, your body begins to learn what the mind cannot teach. Most fail here, not because they lack strength, but because they cannot bear the quiet of routine. Aiko's respect deepened. She began to love the monotony. Each swing of the sword became a meditation. 9. Honor the routine, Tomo once said. When the body follows rhythm, the mind learns obedience. Every sunrise, every sunset, every drill had its time. To the undisciplined, this seemed like slavery. To the warrior, it was freedom. Routine is not a prison, Tamo told her. It is a foundation. Rituals build consistency, and consistency is the mother of all victory. You will fail only when you abandon your rhythm. In today's world, where chaos is constant, routine still works like armor. Neuroscientists at Kyoto University discovered that routine stabilizes dopamine cycles. It creates the biological conditions for calm focus. Tamo lived this truth centuries earlier, 10 and each day in reflection and gratitude. As the moon rose over the hills, Tamo sat with Aiko beside a small stream. A warrior's final habit, she said softly, is reflection. Each night before rest, review your day. Ask, where did I waver? Where did I hold firm? What did I learn? Gratitude sharpens awareness, reflection deepens wisdom. Together, they close the wounds the world inflicts. Aiko closed her eyes, listening to the water for the first time. She felt still, not empty, but whole. Tamo's final words that night were gentle but fierce. Discipline is not about perfection, Aiko. It is about renewal. Each day you rise, you begin again. Each night you bow, you forgive yourself and sharpen your purpose. That is how warriors live, not endlessly strong, but endlessly committed. For a long moment, neither spoke. The air carried the scent of pine and rain. Aiko finally looked at her master and whispered, I understand now. Tamo turned toward her, eyes calm as moonlight. Then prove it, not by words, but by repetition. For the disciplined, tomorrow is not a new day. It is a continuation of today's promise. And from that night forward, Aiko's movements changed. Her sword no longer trembled, her breath no longer broke. Each habit had carved into her spirit like 10,000 strokes of the blade, until discipline became not what she did, but who she was. Chapter 6. The transformation and modern application. Weeks turned into months. The chill of winter swept through the mountains, coating the training grounds in thin frost. The students wore thicker robes, their breath visible in the morning air. Yet Aiko still rose before dawn, as she had promised. Every habit that once felt like burden had now become her rhythm. There was no resistance, no hesitation, only flow. Tamo watched her from a distance, her eyes sharp but quiet. She saw the subtle difference in how Aiko carried herself. No more frantic energy, no more searching for approval. She had become still, deliberate, precise. Her sword no longer sliced air, it cut through her own uncertainty. Each strike was an act of awareness, not aggression. It was not that Aiko had become perfect. It was that she had learned to remain composed even in imperfection. She no longer sought motivation. She created momentum. When the body wanted to stop, the mind commanded it forward. When the mind wanted to drift, the breath brought it back. She had become what Tamo called a quiet storm. Calm on the outside, relentless within. One morning, Tamo called her forward for a sparring test. The students gathered, whispering among themselves. They had seen Aiko's rise, but they doubted her composure could withstand pressure. The match began. Her opponent struck first, fast and fierce. Aiko did not flinch. She stepped aside, the blade grazing the edge of her robe. Then, with a motion almost invisible, she countered. One movement, one breath. The other sword clattered to the ground. Silence fell, no cheers, no taunts, only understanding. For the first time, Aiko bowed without trembling. Tamo nodded once. Now, she said, you understand the way. That night by the fire, Tamo spoke of what she had truly taught. These habits, she said, are not just for warriors. They are for anyone who wishes to rule themselves. The world's battles may have changed, but the enemy remains the same: distraction. Laziness, doubt, fear. A disciplined heart defeats all of them. Tamo's wisdom transcended centuries, echoing perfectly into the modern age. The weapons have changed. The sword replaced by the smartphone, the battlefield replaced by screens and deadlines. Yet the war within is the same. Most people today are trapped in a cycle of comfort and fatigue. They wake up already tired, rush through tasks without awareness, and end each night numbing themselves with endless distractions. But what Tamo understood is what modern psychology is rediscovering: that the mind craves structure as much as it craves freedom. Neuroscientists at Kyoto University recently demonstrated that discipline activates the same reward circuits in the brain that pleasure does. In other words, self-control can feel as good as indulgence once practiced long enough. And that is the secret modern men and women miss. You do not need more stimulation. You need structure. You do not need to feel motivated. You need to act before emotion interferes. Aiko's habits are not relics of war. They are the blueprints of mastery in any field. If you are a student, rising before dawn to study is your battle. If you are an entrepreneur, maintaining order in chaos is your sword. If you are a creator, enduring boredom and silence is your dojo. Discipline does not belong to an era. It belongs to every person who chooses clarity over confusion. In the modern world, many say they want to be great, but few are willing to repeat what greatness demands. They chase novelty like children chasing fireflies, one moment passionate, the next distracted. They begin with excitement and end with excuses. Tomo would have looked at them with quiet pity and said, "You wish to be sharp without grinding the blade." She taught that mastery begins where comfort ends. The reason most people never achieve greatness is not lack of opportunity. It is the refusal to suffer through the simplicity of practice. Everyone wants progress. No one wants repetition, yet repetition is the mother of all skill. Aiko had once hated repetition too, but once she embraced it, something inside her changed. Her movements became smoother, her emotions steadier, even her voice softened. She had realized the paradox of mastery. The more disciplined you become, the freer you feel. Discipline is not punishment. It is liberation. The lazy mind believes that freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but that is the path of slavery. Slavery to impulse, to mood, to distraction. The disciplined person, on the other hand, knows that true freedom means doing what must be done, even when you don't feel like it. It means ruling your own mind instead of being ruled by it. Tomo once said, "If you cannot command your body, you cannot command your fate." That truth remains unchanged. In the gym, on the battlefield, in the office, in your relationships, it is always the same test. Can you rise when it's hard? Can you hold your silence when your ego screams for attention? Can you persist when no one praises you? Aiko's transformation teaches something vital. Self-mastery is not achieved in one grand act. It is earned through 10,000 small victories against the weaker self. Each time she rose before dawn, she sharpened her spirit. Each time she cleaned her sword in silence, she built respect for order. Each time she trained through the rain, she taught her mind that comfort was optional. Discipline is not an event. It is a conversation between who you are and who you are becoming. Every choice is a vote for one of them. And what of you, the listener? What choices are you making today? You say you want focus, yet you wake to the noise of notifications. You say you want mastery, yet you surrender to distraction. You say you want peace, yet you drown in comfort. You call your fear anxiety, your laziness burnout, and your inconsistency self-care. But deep down, you know the truth. You are not tired. You are undisciplined. You are not broken. You are untrained. Aiko's path is open to you, but it requires one thing: to begin again, without pride and without waiting for the perfect moment. Tomo goes and believed that every soul has two versions, the untrained and the awakened. The untrained one seeks comfort, the awakened one seeks challenge. The untrained complains of boredom. The awakened uses boredom to grow. The untrained seeks control over others. The awakened seeks control only over the self. The question is, which version are you feeding every day? Discipline is not something you learn once. It is something you renew every sunrise. When Tomo said, "Rise before the sun," she was not just speaking of time. She was speaking of consciousness. To rise before the world means to move with purpose before chaos begins. To rise before the sun is to awaken before the mind begins its excuses. If you can win the first battle of the day, you can win the rest. Modern science calls this the activation principle. Once the first disciplined act is completed, it activates a psychological cascade that increases focus and self-control for hours. The ancients discovered this through experience. Warriors, monks, even poets, they all began their day with ritual, because ritual kills hesitation. Aiko's ritual was her sword. Yours may be your notebook, your gym shoes, your meditation cushion. The object does not matter. What matters is that you begin. Tomo used to say, "You do not need a war to be a warrior," and that is the truth of this lesson. The modern battlefield is your own attention. The enemies are not men with blades. They are your distractions, your excuses, your cravings, but like Aiko, you can train yourself to see clearly, to move calmly, to act decisively. Every time you sit down to work instead of scroll, you are swinging your sword. Every time you hold your tongue instead of reacting, you are sharpening your blade. Every time you repeat a boring task with focus, you are mastering yourself. The transformation of Aiko is the transformation that awaits anyone who lives by discipline. You don't need perfect circumstances, you don't need motivation, you only need commitment, a simple, quiet decision to do the work no matter how you feel. Over time, you will stop fighting your mind, you will begin to guide it, you will stop chasing balance, you will create it through structure, you will stop wishing for confidence, you will build it through consistency. When Tomo watched Aiko move with stillness and power, she knew her student had understood the ultimate secret, that discipline is not the path to freedom. It is freedom itself. The modern world will never stop tempting you with shortcuts and comfort. But if you live by Tomo's 10 habits, if you build your mornings with intention and end your days with reflection, you will not be swayed, you will stand firm as she did, unbreakable, unhurried and unafraid. And when the storms of life rise, you will smile quietly and whisper, "I have trained for this." Chapter 7. The soft generation. Tomo once said that warriors are not born in peace. They are forged in friction. When life becomes too easy, the spirit begins to decay. That is what she saw centuries ago in her own soldiers when victory came too soon. That is what we see now in ourselves. We are living in what she would call the age of softness. Comfort has become a god. We praise ease, not effort. We protect our emotions like fragile glass instead of tempering them like steel. Every inconvenience is called stress, every challenge labeled trauma. But Tomo would have called it what it truly is, the dulling of the blade. Look around, you will see people who change their dreams as easily as they change clothes. They start one thing, give up when it gets hard, then search for something more exciting. They want mastery without repetition, results without restraint. They want to feel strong without ever sweating. Tomo would have looked at this age and asked, "How can a sword cut if it is never sharpened?" The truth is harsh, but necessary. You are not special because you want greatness. Everyone does. You become special when you are willing to suffer for it. That is what modern life has forgotten. The warrior knows that suffering is not an obstacle. It is the invitation to transform. There is no discipline without discomfort, no power without patience, no self-mastery without sacrifice. You can read every quote, every self-help post, every promise of quick success, but if you cannot control your own impulses for one single day, all of it is meaningless. Tomo Gozen would have said it plainly. You wish to be a blade, yet you run from the grindstone. Chapter 8. The Modern Samurai Routine. If you truly want to build the discipline of a warrior, start small but stay absolute. Discipline doesn't grow from giant gestures, it grows from consistency, from the small decisions repeated until they shape your soul. Tomo's habits can be translated into a modern warrior's routine. Each step is a weapon, each choice a strike. Step 1, rise before the sun. Your alarm rings. This is your first battle. Don't think, don't negotiate, rise. This is how you declare victory before the world awakens. It is how you prove to yourself that you are in command. Science now confirms what the ancients knew. The first decision of the day creates momentum for all that follows. Step 2, clean your space. Your surroundings mirror your mind. Begin your day by restoring order. Make your bed. Clear your desk. Organize your tools. This small ritual trains your brain for clarity. Neuroscientists from Osaka University found that even simple tidying triggers focus chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine, in Tomo's words. When your space is pure, your sword will not hesitate. Step 3, move your body. Train every day, no matter how little. Walk, stretch, lift, breathe deeply. Movement is not vanity. It is energy. It connects body and will. The disciplined body becomes a disciplined mind. Step 4, focus on one skill. Tomo taught Aiko that a warrior's curse is divided attention. Choose one skill, one mission, and pour yourself into it until it no longer feels foreign. The world rewards focus because focus is rare. Step 5, practice silence. In an era of constant noise, silence is power. Spend part of your day in stillness. No screens, no talking, no stimulation. Let your thoughts settle like water. From silence comes awareness. From awareness comes mastery. Step 6, face one fear daily. Whether it's a hard conversation, a cold shower, or a risky decision, face it. This trains your nervous system to stay calm in chaos. Modern research calls this stress inoculation. Tomo called it strength training for the soul. Step 7, eat simply. Avoid gluttony, distraction eating, or indulgence as escape. Food is fuel, not comfort. When you master appetite, you master impulse. The warrior's clarity is built on restraint. Step 8, create and reflect. Do something that expresses mastery right. Build, train, lead, and before sleep, reflect. Ask, what did I win today? Where did I lose control? What can I sharpen tomorrow? Step 9, endure boredom. In a world that worships stimulation, boredom is your dojo. When you feel the itch to check your phone, to switch tasks, to escape, stay still. Let discomfort shape your focus. Step 10, be grateful for the struggle. At night, bow in gratitude, not for success, but for the chance to fight again tomorrow. Gratitude anchors the soul, preventing pride from corrupting discipline. Tomo once said, victory is not when the enemy falls. It is when pride does. Follow these 10 steps daily. You will not transform overnight, but if you persist for 30 days, the mind will start obeying you. If you persist for 90, the world will start to shift around you. Discipline doesn't need inspiration. It needs repetition. Chapter 9, the ego confrontation. Eiko once asked Tomo, Master, why do you train so hard when no one watches? Tomo replied, because the self I face when no one watches is my greatest enemy. Ego is the last battle. It hides behind your progress, whispering that you are already disciplined, already wise, already strong enough. But that voice is the same weakness wearing a new mask. The moment you think you've mastered yourself, you've already begun to decay. Tomo warned her students of this subtle trap. Pride grows fastest in the soil of progress. Guard your humility as you guard your sword. In our age, ego takes a different shape. It hides behind comparison. The false need to appear great rather than become great. People post their victories, not their repetitions. They speak of success, not the silence behind it. But real discipline makes no announcements. It is quiet, patient, invisible. Iko learned this lesson when she defeated a fellow student who once mocked her. The others cheered. She looked to Tomo, expecting pride. Instead, Tomo's face was still. You are smiling too much, she said softly. You have already lost. Aiko's smile vanished. Lost? Yes, Tomo said, because you've made your victory about them. Not about mastery. Discipline dies the moment it seeks applause. That night, Aiko wept, not from shame, but understanding. Her ego had been her last opponent, and now it was gone, in silence. She returned to training under the moonlight, without audience, without praise, and from that moment she was free. Chapter 10, the final transformation. Years passed, the Genpei War ended. The fields that once echoed with steel and screams grew quiet again. Tomo, older now, walked through the same courtyard where Eiko once trained. She paused beside the stream where they had first spoken about reflection. There, she found Aiko, now a master in her own right, training young warriors. Her movements were fluid, her gaze calm, her commands sharp yet compassionate. Tomo watched silently. When Aiko noticed her, she bowed deeply. Master, Aiko said, I owe everything to you. Tomo shook her head. No, I only handed you the blade. You chose to carry it. Aiko smiled faintly. Then what remains for me to learn? Tomo's voice softened. To teach as you were taught, with patience. Without pride, remember the sword you pass on must be sharper than the one you received. The wind rustled through the bamboo as the two warriors bowed one final time. The bond between them was not of blood, but of discipline. Two souls refined by the same flame. As Tomo turned to leave, Aiko called after her, Master, what is the greatest victory of a warrior? Tomo paused, her silhouette framed by the setting sun. The greatest victory, she said, is peace earned through struggle. To command the storm within so completely that even the world cannot shake your stillness. Then she walked on, disappearing into the golden horizon, leaving behind not followers but successors. Chapter 11, the path of the unbreakable. The story of Tamo and Aiko is not about swords or war, it is about you. The same fire that burned in them burns in you. The same fear, the same hesitation, the same craving for comfort. You don't need to be born a warrior to live like one. You only need to begin where you stand. When you wake tomorrow, remember your life is the dojo, every task is training, every obstacle is a sparring partner, every failure is a lesson in disguise. Discipline is not about perfection, it is about alignment. You fall, you rise, you fail, you refine, you repeat until weakness no longer feels natural. If you live by Tamo's 10 habits, you will slowly become unshakable. Your mind will no longer tremble in chaos. Your emotions will serve you instead of rule you. You will stop chasing motivation and start living by principle. That is the true legacy of Tamo Gozen. Not violence, not conquest, but command over the self. Epilogue, the invitation. If this story has reached you, it is because some part of you remembers what you once were, focused, alive, ready to fight for something real. Do not let that spark die in the noise of modern life. The path of discipline is not for the many. It is for the few who dare to walk without applause, who dare to become strong without validation. If you are one of them, then stay, train here. Each video, each lesson is another strike at your weakness. Subscribe not for content, but for commitment. Leave a comment to mark your step on the journey. And when you wake tomorrow, stand as Tamo did, before the noise, before the excuses, and whisper to yourself, the battle begins within. And I am ready, because you have always been.